What is it that really makes a story scary? Is it the monster lurking under the bed? Or maybe it's just the sound of a floorboard creaking in a house that's supposed to be empty. Sometimes, the most terrifying stories aren't about ghosts and ghouls at all, but about the dangers we just don't see coming. And believe it or not, one of the greatest storytellers really understood this.
This line, it just perfectly captures that chilling feeling, doesn't it? It comes from one of India's masters of the craft. He builds these worlds where the line between our reality and, well, some other, much more sinister one, feels terrifyingly thin.
And that master is none other than Ruskin Bond. Now, you probably know him as this celebrated, award-winning author of really gentle children's stories. But here's the twist. For over 40 years, he's also had this much darker passion, writing ghost stories.
Okay, so what's really fascinating here is why he writes them. Here's a guy famous for his beautiful writing about nature and the innocence of childhood, and he's using the supernatural as an outlet. He's actually talked about how he channels his own deep feelings of insecurity, what he calls being lonely in the crowd, right into these haunting tales.
And this is where his style is just completely unique. He doesn't go for the typical Western ghost story, chains rattling in some old castle. No, he dives deep into the incredibly rich world of Indian folklore. His stories aren't really about jump scares. They're about creating this deep, psychological feeling of insecurity. And his ghosts, they're not always out for blood. Sometimes they're lonely or friendly or even funny. They're as complex as people are.
So, what kinds of supernatural beings are we talking about here? Let's just say it's not your usual lineup of spooky spirits.
Bond actually collected these stories from friends and acquaintances, which is what makes them feel so real. We're talking about figures like churls, ghosts that suck blood, and phantoms that can look like snakes or other animals. He even has this one really chilling story about a schoolgirl who literally transforms into a leopard to get revenge on her teacher. And to give you a better idea, let's just focus on the churel for a second. This is a very specific creature from Indian folklore, and the key detail, the thing that makes it so unsettling, is that her feet are on backwards. It's just so creepy, and it shows exactly how Bond uses these specific cultural details to create a serious sense of unease.
It's all so fascinating, right? But it kind of begs a question. Are these phantoms, as scary as they are, really the most terrifying things that can haunt a young person? What if the real horrors are a lot closer to home?
So, let's shift gears. We're going to move away from the pages of fiction and look at an official government document. Because while one explores fears we can imagine, the other has to confront dangers that are all too real.
And this brings us to the real ghosts in the hallway. I'm not talking about the supernatural kind. I'm talking about the specters of negligence, of unsafe school buildings, and that quiet, creeping terror of bullying. These are the phantoms that are actually haunting our kids' schools.
To fight these dangers, India's Ministry of Education put together a really comprehensive set of guidelines. This isn't fiction. It's a practical manual, a playbook, for how to spot and deal with the very real threats that kids can face every single day at school. So, how do you get rid of these real-world ghosts? Well, the ministry has laid out a pretty clear blueprint. Think of it as a plan to banish these dangers from our schools once and for all. Their strategy is basically built on three main pillars. First, you've got accountability, making sure there are real, legal consequences when things go wrong. Then there's the whole school approach, which is all about making safety everybody's job. And finally, a multi-sectoral approach, which recognizes that, hey, protecting kids is a job for the whole community. So, what does whole school safety actually mean? Well, it's pretty simple. It means safety isn't just one person's responsibility. It means everyone, from the school management and the principal, all the way down to the students and their parents, has to be actively involved. Everybody has a role to play.
And this isn't just some random document either. It ties directly into the bigger vision of the National Education Policy. The policy basically says the whole point of a school is to make every single student feel welcomed, cared for, and most importantly, safe. Because safety is the foundation that all learning has to be built on.
Now, here's where these guidelines get their real teeth. Probably the most powerful tool in this whole plan is the principle of absolute zero-tolerance accountability. This is the game changer.
And just look at this slide. It shows you exactly how serious they are. This isn't just some vague policy talk. They link every single type of failure directly to a specific law.
So if a school is criminally negligent, they're looking at the Juvenile Justice Act. If they don't report an offense, that triggers the POCSO Act. Even the building itself has to meet the National Building Code. The message couldn't be clearer. There are no gray areas and there are no excuses.
And this system is designed to work for everyone. As you can see, it doesn't matter if it's a private school monitored by a PTA or a government school with a school management committee. The structures might be a little different, but the goal is exactly the same: create crystal clear lines of responsibility. So, the bottom line is this. The entire framework is built on this non-negotiable principle of zero tolerance. The executive summary itself says a key purpose is to make it absolutely clear that any kind of negligence when it comes to a child's safety at school is completely unacceptable and will have serious consequences.
And that brings us right back to where we started. Ruskin Bond's ghosts. They feel real, they're these characters we can almost picture. But the ghosts of negligence, of an unsafe building, of abuse that goes unreported, those are the dangers we can't see. And they're the ones that cause real, lasting harm. So it leaves you with one final thought, doesn't it? Which is truly more frightening? A ghost you can see or a danger you can't?